Hello, everyone. This is Franco. We will start in approximately 5 minutes. Thank you for joining this morning or this afternoon. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining our e-seminar today on advanced review features in NeuroWorks. My name is Franco Avolio, and I am the Neurology and Sleep Education Manager with Natus Medical. Today's session, we will be talking about a number of features that are available in NeuroWorks. Some may consider these advanced features, others may not, and so I apologize ahead of time if you find some of these features a bit redundant, but for some of you, I know this will be new. The software that I'll be using today to demonstrate the features is NeuroWorks version 7. So if you do not have the latest version of software, you may notice some of the features are not available in your version 6.1 because I'm using a newer version. If you have any questions at any point in time, I ask that you please submit them in the chat window on the right-hand side and just submit the chat to myself. And at the end, I will take a few minutes to review what you've submitted and go through the questions and answer them as best as I can. We do have a number of people on the line today, and so your lines have all been muted in the interest of clarity and minimizing any background noise. If anyone experiences any technical issues viewing or listening to the presentation, the best thing to do is to exit the session and simply restart your session, and hopefully that should resolve your problem. The outline today, or at least the topics, I just want to kind of give you an idea of what I'll be covering today. Today, I will be reviewing and demonstrating a few things in the montage that are available. Channel sets. There's a new button in the toolbar that's called vertical paging. Allows you to display set number of channels in your window. We'll be looking at some of the trend charts. We'll be looking at workspaces, Gridlines, some changes in the annotation viewer. Then I'll be talking about a few additional settings. There's a setting where you can have your computer restart a study automatically after a set time. I want to show you something in the channel labeler. It's just a resize option. I want to show you something in the report templates. I will show you how to compress video, talk about pruning a little bit, exporting your data points from a study into an Excel file, and I will end with talking about. I'll end the session with talking about the ICU Touch screen option that is available in NeuroWorks. And basically, this is something. I have a video here, a brief video that I want to share with you at the end, which simply demonstrates the touch screen option that is available. Today's session, I will not be talking about any of the analyzers. We have another session scheduled on July 22nd. I'm posting the e-seminar calendar, which shows the spike and event analyzers in NeuroWorks. And that is scheduled for July 22nd. If you have any questions relating to any of the ExcelTech spike and event analyzers, I encourage you to register for this event. This promises to be I think a very good event, and I will be co-presenting this session with one of the programmers responsible for putting together these analyzers. And so during this session, we will be reviewing the analyzer settings, and we will go through the parameters that are used and applicable to each of the analyzers. This will give you an opportunity to also submit any questions that you might have with respect to how you're using the analyzers. And again, you'll have an opportunity to submit a question to one of the programmers, one of the chief programmers, who will be available to respond to your inquiries. The seminar calendar is available by going to the natus.com website. If you go to the homepage, natus.com, and you click on the Education and Support link, there's a clinical education link where you can then click on neurology seminars, which will take you to a neurology e-seminars page. And there's another link here that says, click here to download a copy of the e-seminar calendar. If you click on that link, it'll then take you to the e-seminar calendar in a PDF format, which contains links to actually register for the event. So if you just click on the link right within the PDF document, it'll allow you to register for the actual event. Okay. And so now I will begin, and I'm going to just share my desktop as I will be demonstrating most of the features today using my laptop. Okay, so I've got a study open right now, and I'm just going to go through a couple of features here in an actual study. If we go to Edit Settings in our Montage window, you have the option, I'm just going to select the montage here, we have the option of utilizing the Set column. When we utilize the Set column, what this allows us to do, it allows us to group our channels into set groups. So by default, all of the channels belong to set 1. If I wanted to isolate a group of channels, I'm just going to left click on the first column and hold the shift key and left click on the last column. I'm just highlighting a random number of channels here. I'm going to right click on the last cell and select the multiple option. And I'm going to say that in addition to belonging to set 1, I also want to make these channels part of set 2. So I'm going to check off set 2. All right, I'm going to create another set. I'm going to highlight the first column, and I'm going to highlight the last row here to include the photic and the oximetry. And I'm going to right-click, actually let's do it up to photic. So I'm going to highlight the first column, highlight the last photic channel, and exclude the chin and OSAT. Right-click, select multiple, make this part of set 3. Click OK. And again, you can just choose any random group that you like. I'm just selecting any random group here just to demonstrate the feature. And I'll pick this set here, and I'll make this part of set 4. Click OK. All right, so we'll see next to each of the rows what sets that each of the channels belong to. Click OK. You want to save the changes? Yes. All right, so when I press Control 1 on my keyboard, we don't see any changes because it displays all of our channels. If I click on Control 2, it will display, sorry, let's change our montage here. Montage A, okay. All right, second. Just want to make sure that saves, okay. Let me just revise this example here. We'll just want to uncheck 3. Here we go. Okay. And make this part of set 5 even. Okay, here we go. Sorry. So if I click on Control 1, that'll correspond to Group 1. If I click on Control 2, that corresponds to Group 2. Control 3, Control 4, and then Control 5. So it's pressing the Control button and the corresponding number corresponds to the channel set group. Control 1 brings back all of your channels. There's an additional button in the toolbar here where it says N, where it allows you to limit the number of channels. If you left-click on this, I can choose to display 6 channels and continue to scroll throughout the study. If I click on it again, it returns all the channels. I can pick any set number of channels here just by selecting one of the options. So again, you left-click on it and you choose the number of channels you want to display. And it just allows you, it's just a quick way of reducing the number of channels that are visible on your screen. If you want to, as far as Gridlines, you know probably already that Gridlines can be adjusted by going up to View Gridlines and deciding whether or not to enable the major grid lines or minor and major grid lines. The minor grid lines, the major grid lines are set by going to Edit Settings, Time Base, and you can control what the major grid lines in here. You can control the increments of your major grid lines by selecting an option in the drop-down menu. So if I change this and click Apply, we will see more grid lines. I'm just going to limit this to 6 channels so we can see our grid lines more clearly. Okay? If you want to add horizontal grid lines, of course, that's an option as well, which you can enable by going back into the montage and scrolling to the far right of your montage, and you can specify your grid line increments per channel. So if I just selected the top 3 channels here, for example, I'm going to right-click, select Grid Settings. Now I can set a default or configure a default setting for my montage so that every time I load this montage, do I want the grid lines to be on or off? So if I click on, they'll be turned on, and I can define up to 6 increments. So I will type in, for example, minus 50 microvolts and positive 50 microvolts. And I'll even put in a 0 baseline. Click OK. We've now defined the increments for these channels. I'm going to save it to our montage. Click OK. I'm going to limit this to 6 channels and just remove some of the grid lines here. By going to grid lines, I'm going to display none this time. All right, so you can see our grid lines displaying on our channels. If you want to turn them off, you can right-click on the individual channel and simply turn it off. The grid lines need to be defined beforehand in order for you to have the option to turn them on or off. Okay. There's an icon in our toolbar that allows you to display the trend summary toolbar. So I'm going to click on this button, and here we have our trend summary toolbar. I'm just going to make this a little bigger. If you look on the far right-hand side of the screen, you'll notice that there are some tabs for our trend summary toolbar. So if we right-click in if we right-click in the space here, and I select Go to our trend plots, I can display some trend charts that are available. So for example, if I'm using amplitude or AEG analysis, I can select a trend chart here. I can add a few more trends to this and make this part of tab number 1. If I click on tab number 2, it brings me a blank slate. Right-click again, and I can add our brain symmetry index in here, for example. And let's say on tab 3, I've already got this configured for a few other ones. Let's go to tab 4, right-click, go to trend plots again, and we can add, let's see, BSI, brain symmetry just for delta. So if you click on each of these tabs, it will save whichever trend you have added to those tabs. Okay. The arrangement of your window, by the way, the fact that we've got our trend summary toolbar here at the bottom, the study toolbar here at the bottom, the fact that our annotation viewer is showing at a set size. You can also move your toolbars around if you like. All of these settings, including your background colors as well. So if I wanted to change my background color, I went to File, Customize Color, and changed it to a lighter blue, let's say. I can save these settings by using the Workspaces button. So if I click on the Workspaces button, the first time I'm going to click Save Workspace As, and it prompts me for a name. And I can say this is EEG Review, and click OK. So it saves our workspace. I'm just going to revert back to another workspace. Okay, let's go back to this one here, Workspace 1. So here's Workspace 1. When I open the study, I can load my EEG Review workspace. All right, I'm going to go back to Workspace 1. Another toolbar that I want to introduce you to is called our pruning toolbar. So before I talk about this new instant pruning toolbar, I want to just remind you of our current function. If we go up here to where it says pruning and it clips, this allows us to set or define segments within our study. So I'm just going to clear these ones out. just to give us a clean slate. So by now you know that you can extract segments within a study by marking start and end points. So if I jump to this particular location in the study and I click on the Start button, it prompts me for a button, and I can give this a title. I can say this is the beginning of a seizure, event 1, for example. I can scroll forward and mark an end point. All right, let's continue scrolling forward, mark a start point. Let's say this is seizure 2. And mark an end point. And I can continue scrolling, marking a start point, marking an end point. Now, if I click on the third button that says Edit Clips, it includes all of our clips here. All right, now from this list, I can create another study. If I click on the Prune button, and I can just create a separate study that says seizures, for example. And as you know now, if I click on this, OK, it will take these 3 clips and combine them into one study record. So if I go to my database window, I will now see a new copy of my prune study. And we can see that. This is the name that I gave it, seizures, and here's our prune study. The original study is 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and this new prune study is 2 minutes and 44 seconds. Another way of doing something like this, if you don't want to create a prune study, if we go up to View and go to our toolbars and select the Instant Pruning option, you'll notice at the top of our waveform window that there are some tabs in here. So by default, you will see tabs that are called Clips, Events, and Spikes. So what this is intended to do is, rather than, if you don't want to create a separate prune study, if I clicked on Clips, for example, what it'll do is take the 3 clips that I just created, glue them together, and display only those 3 clips under the Clips tab here. So if I were to scroll through this, it will display those 3 clips that I just created. All right. Now, if you're not familiar with this tool, you may be familiar with pruning, because you'll take a long-term study, 72-hour study, and you may create a prune study of couple of hours containing your events of interest. If you don't want to go through the pruning process, or the process of actually creating a separate study, you can use the Clips option here. Still define your clips, but when you click on the Clips tab, it'll simply glue them together and display only those clips. If you are running any of the analyzers, for example, and you're running the Excel Event Analyzer, for example, and you click on the Events tab, it will display all the clips containing events. It will, now depending on how you've defined your pruning rules, I'm going to click on All. If we go to our pruning clip here, if we select Auto Clips, by default, our clips are defined to include 2 minutes before and 3 minutes after an Excel event. So when you click on the Event tab, it will display 2 minutes before and 3 minutes after each event. Take all of those segments and glue them together, or put them together, so that when you click on the Events tab, you are only looking at events. If you're looking, I just want to show you, demonstrate the scene. Let me just reduce this to 6 channels. I'm going to remove the grid lines. And here. Just trying to find a theme here. Okay. On the Event tab. our clips here instead. So filtered. And I'll come back to that in a second. I want to show you in our tab list here, we've got another tab here in case you wanted to create a new tab. So if I click on this new tab, and let's say in this particular study, I've also utilized reveal analyzers. So we've got Rhythmic Burst, for example. So I've utilized the reveal detectors for this particular study. So I'm going to create a new tab here. I'm going to call it reveal. Let's see, reveal detectors. All right, and let's say, let's display all first. Okay. First, let's add a rule. And we're interested in picking up events. Rhythmic Burst. Call this Rhythmic Burst. Okay, so we're adding a rule to detect the Rhythmic Burst detection. Click OK. There's our rule. All right, now we can click Close. I'm going to close this. I'm going to go up here now, create our tab, and I want to create a tab called Rhythmic Burst. I'm going to say Rhythmic Burst, and I want it to display only the Rhythmic Burst event. Make sure that is checked. Click OK. It creates the Rhythmic Burst tab. And so now, this study just happens to have one Rhythmic Burst. All right? But the tab here allows you to create new tabs that correspond to any other event or note type that you created in your window here. All right? You need to be careful. You probably just noticed that when you are filtering your data using the tabs up here, you can also filter data using the annotation viewer. The annotation viewer contains some additional tabs here. All right, so this is the All tab. But if I click on only display spikes or events, let's say, you can see how it also alters what you're viewing in here. So there are some additional filtering options here, but you want to be careful that when you start utilizing these tabs and the tabs up here, that you're not going to be canceling each other out. I'm just going to, by default, click on the All button to display everything. And I could filter this window by clicking on the Filter tab, bring up the filter in the annotation viewer. I'm going to uncheck this and say, show me all of the Rhythmic Bursts, show me all of the spike bursts, or no spike bursts. Just show me all of the spikes. These are the spikes that are detected by reveal. XL spike are spikes that are detected by the the Natus detectors. Okay. So, you can use the annotation viewer to filter. Let me click on All. And I can filter the entire study to display only the spike notes. All right, so this will display our spike notes, spike burst, and Rhythmic Burst, which are essentially all of the reveal detectors. You can use the annotation viewer to filter these events, or you can use the tabs at the top. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. You may already be familiar with the voltage cursor here, and I'm just going to show one channel. The voltage cursor, if I left-click on a point will display the voltage value. If I left-click again, it'll give me the voltage difference between both points. It also gives me the zero crossing frequency of that waveform. If I just left-click and drag, you will see in the top left-hand corner that the voltage values will fluctuate as I move along my signal. Okay. Disable that. Right-click, show all traces. There's an audio option. If anyone is trained in listening to an EEG, you can go up to audio and click on run. And this will gives you the option to select unique channels, or you can select all the channels. And if I click on the play button, you probably can't hear the audio on your end, but it will actually play back your EEG. When you play back the audio of your EEG. So again, if you are trained to listening to your EEG signals, you can utilize this option to play back your signals. If you are engaged in long-term study recordings, there's an option that's available under Edit Settings, Acquisition, that allows you to have a study restart every 24 hours in this case. So if you are running a long-term study, let's say you've got a 5-day study, for example, you can configure your acquisition software to stop recording and restart the study again every 24 hours. If you're interested in breaking up a long-term study into segments, such as a 5-day recording, you can utilize this option. If not, you can just have one large study record with your 5 days of recording. But this is available. In order to enable this, you need to go to Edit Settings, the Acquisition tab, and check off the box that says Restart the Study, and you can define your hours here. The next time you start your recording, as long as this is checked, your recording will continue to record, and then once it reaches 24 hours, it will stop and restart again automatically on its own. If you are recording a study with video, all right, you may decide at some point that you want to save your study, but by default, you're probably recording at a high level or a high quality recording, video recording, probably 30 frames per second. If file size is an issue for you and you want to compress or reduce the video size, one option that is available to you is you can compress your video after a study has been done. So for example, we've got a study here and we've got some video. Now, in order to enable this video squeeze option, we need to exit the study first of all. All right, so I'm going to go to Edit Settings, go to Review, and there's a video squeeze option. All right, right now it's disabled. I can't check this at all. And that's because I have a study open right now. So I need to close the study. And then you need to go to Start and access your NeuroWorks EEG, which you can also access by going to the Excel Tech menu and selecting NeuroWorks EEG. Go up to Edit Settings, go to your Review tab now, and now you will see that the setting is enabled. All right, so I'm going to enable this so that this becomes available if I am pruning, for example. You can also define your compression rate here. Right, click OK. Now we can go back and let's open our study with video. So if I decided to take my original clips that I had marked, this is where the video squeeze option becomes available. If you look at our video column, right, you will see a solid square displayed under the video icon. And it tells us right now the size of our clip is 18 megabytes. All right, if I left click on this, the icon changes and it displays kind of a half-shaded square, which indicates that you are selecting the squeeze or compressed video option. You'll notice the change, the corresponding change in our file size. If I left click on this again, it will remove video completely from the clip. So there are 3 toggle points. Left click once, you get a solid square, you will get your full video quality. If I left click on it again, you get the half shade, which compresses it and reduces our file size to 2. And if you left click on it again, it removes video altogether from your clip. Again, in order to have this option available, you need to have that setting that I just showed you that says enable video squeeze. That needs to be set beforehand. So if I select squeeze video for all of these, now I can prune a study with compressed video. Now it will create a prune study containing compressed video. This will not take your original study and compress the video in that study in the same study record. It doesn't work that way. It creates a new study record containing your compressed video. So if for all intents and purposes you wanted to keep your original study, you could simply just create a pruned clip where your start point is at the beginning of the study and your end point is at the end of the study. Select your compressed video option in your window here, and then create a pruned study, which ends up being a duplicate copy of your original study, only containing compressed video. And if we click close, and that will appear again in our database window, this time with compressed video. I want to show you something in our channel labeler. If we go to Programs, select Exotech Channel Labeler. This is just a minor change here. When you add a grid to your channel labeler, I'm just going to add, say, a 5x4 grid. All right, just give it a name, left temporal 1. All right, there's a parameter in here that says size that allows you to control the size of your grid. So if I decrease it, or I can just type in 50, click the Apply button, you'll see a corresponding change in your grid. I click OK. If I left click and drag my grid and move it about, if I hold the Control button and use the scroll wheel on my mouse, this is another way of controlling the size of your grid. Okay? I'm going to close that. In the Study Information form, if you go to any of the report tabs, you will see that there is a toolbar available at the top there. All right, you can control your font styles and sizes. The first button allows you to actually save some remarks, some statements. So if you had a standard statement that you wanted to describe, you wanted to find that you're using over and over again in a report, I can save this statement by clicking the Save icon, and I'll give it a name. option. Let's save. And it will appear in here as an option. So if I go to a new report tab, I can go up here, select depression, and it'll populate with the statement. All right, so I can have another paragraph in here. Or my computer's just, give me a moment here. My computer is just frozen for a second. All right, here we go. Then you can just save your statement. So when you are in a new tab, you can select from your drop-down the statements to start building your report. Okay. If you are interested in doing some analysis of the actual data points in your study, you can do so by going to File, selecting the Export option, and just going to select a location, and I'll just give this a name, sample, save. All right, so what happens here, it gives you the option to select some or all of the channels, and you can select a time period. So right now it's 11:41, and I'm just going to choose a short sample here. 11:41 to, let's say, 11:42 or 11:43. Allows you to define your units, microvolts or millivolts. Pick microvolts. Gives you an estimation of your study or your file size. Click the OK button. So what it's doing now is it's exporting all of the data points, whatever your sampling frequency is, all of the corresponding data points, and it's saving it into a text file. Once this is done saving, right? Once this is done saving, here's our text file. I'm going to right-click and select Open with Excel, for example. You don't have to use Excel. You can open it up in any other program that can open a text document. And what you'll see then is a sampling. Just going to make this a little larger. There we go. So for every channel, so these numbers correspond to your channel numbers. And you're not going to see the channel labels, but it does correspond to your channel numbers. And it will display the time, the date and time, and what the sampling, or what your sample point, whatever the voltage was for each channel. Okay? When you see short, it means your channel is turned off. But again, this just gives you sort of a breakdown of all the actual, of the values, the sampling values, or the voltage values that were used to create that signal. And again, you don't need Excel necessarily. You can use any other program that can open and display a text file containing such data. Okay. So I'm going to end with showing you, actually let me go back. I'm going to end with talking briefly about the ICU Touch option. If you are interested in utilizing a touchscreen monitor, this option is available. If you go to Tools, Options, and you select the Options tab, there's an option at the bottom here that says Use ICU Touchscreen Mode. Okay, you need to check that. You can specify whether or not if you're using Persist Magic Marker. I don't have it on my machine, but if you do have it as an option, you can pick or you can decide to use Persist Magic Marker trends, or you can use the Natus trends. Since you are in a touchscreen environment, if you are doing if you are touching your screen as you are reviewing or performing some functions, after 1 minute of inactivity, you can have it automatically switch back to a particular view. You can have it switch back to a live view or view mode or review mode, or have it switch to your trends chart view after 1 minute of inactivity. So you can control that over here. All right, so in order to enable this, you need to have this checked, and of course, you need to have an ICU monitor connected to your machine. I'm going to show you in this video here, just give you an idea of what that looks like. All right, so basically, the screen, for all intents and purposes, looks the same. The only difference is you can use your fingers now to control the operations. You can type in the username using the keyboard and click the OK button with your finger. On the left-hand side of your window, you'll see some icons. These icons are simply just shortcuts that allow you to enable certain functions. So right now we just touch the impedance button, which allows you to do an impedance check. You can click the N button, which ends our impedance, annotates. There's a video icon that you can use. All right, so again, it's using all your fingers. You can you're not left-clicking and drag here. You're just putting your finger on the title bar of a window, and you can move it about the screen. So in the touchscreen mode, it's your finger that acts as your mouse pointer, essentially. If you want to double-click on something, a double tap of your finger can be used. And again, you can left-click and drag by just putting your finger on the screen and dragging it across the screen to sort of scroll through your study. You can change montages. It's pretty intuitive overall. Okay, as the video is nearing an end here, if you have any questions, please chat them or type them in the box below. I have one question from someone who wants to be able to access the session later. Yes, these sessions have to undergo a regulatory review before we can make them available. We are in the process of developing a revised education website where these resource videos, these tutorials, these seminars will be available for review later. There are some exceptions depending on some copyright or intellectual rights. Generally, when we have recently we conducted a continuous EEG monitoring in the intensive care unit, seminar, and that one has some regulatory intellectual rights assigned to it, and so for that one we are unable to replay that or unable to make that available for download. However, the Excel Tech or the Natus product e-seminars are generally available to be downloaded. We haven't made them available yet, again, because right now they have to go through some regulatory review, but they will be available for review later. Okay, if you have any other questions and you didn't take the opportunity now, you can always email myself directly with a question. If you have some comments about today's session or some clarification that you're looking for, you can contact myself directly, or you can contact the technical support team. If you have any suggestions for other topics that you would like to see presented on in the future, please let me know. Again, you can just email me directly. And again, those of you who are interested in our spike and event analyzers, I encourage you to register for this event, which again is scheduled for July 22nd at noon Eastern Time. And again, I will be co-presenting this session with one of our chief programmers who is responsible for these analyzers. And he will be available to take some of your questions with respect to individual analyzers and the parameter settings. I want to take this opportunity to thank you once again for registering for this event and for your time today. Thank you, everyone. This concludes our session for today. Have a great weekend.